What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 80 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Monday, June 2nd, 2025. I'm your host, Zach Malum. But before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the NBA as the New York Knicks were eliminated in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they lose to the Indiana Pacers 4-2 in the series. And in Game 6, they lose in Indianapolis 125-108, ending the Knicks' remarkable season, made it to the conference finals for the first time in 25 years, and the Pacers move on to the NBA Finals for the first time in 25 years as well. And it just, what a performance by Indiana in Game 6. The Knicks rebounded in Game 5. They had a great performance at MSG, and you're thinking maybe that gives them some momentum into Game 6, but all the pressure was on Indiana, in my mind, to win Game 6, and they answered the call in front of their home crowd. You don't want to go back in a winner-take-all at MSG against this Knicks team, tied at 3-all. The Pacers handled their business. Pascal Siakam, a deserved Eastern Conference Finals MVP, had 31 points in this one, 10 of 18 shooting, 8 of 11 from the free throw line. He was knocking down threes as well. And Tyrese Halliburton, who was very quiet in Game 5, answered the call down the stretch in Game 6, 20-plus points. He had 6 rebounds, 13 assists in this one. And on the Knicks side, it was just quiet from their stars. OG Anunoby had a phenomenal game. You got to give him his credit, and 24 points on 10 of 18 shooting, 2 of 7 from beyond the arc, had 5 rebounds, 3 assists, couple steals, couple blocks. He was everywhere in this one. But the rest of this Knicks team, you had contributions from Mitchell Robinson, a lot of offensive rebounds, specifically 5 of them on the offensive glass. He had 9 rebounds overall in this one, and gave the Knicks second, third, fourth chances at the rim to put up points, but the Knicks stars did not step up. Karl Anthony Towns struggled in this one, 8 of 19 shooting, 0 for 4 from deep, and a very quiet 22-14 in this one, in a game that you're expecting him to really step up. And Jalen Brunson as well was not great in this game, had 5 turnovers with 19 points, 8 of 18 shooting, 7 assists in this game, and 2 of 7 from beyond the arc. The main story for the Knicks in this game was the turnovers overall. Brunson, like I said, had 5 of them. Bridges himself had 5 as well. And the Knicks with 18 turnovers, you're not going to win a big game on the road. It's just not going to happen in the NBA playoffs. And Indiana made the Knicks pay for those 18 turnovers, 34 points off turnovers for the Pacers, and even the fast break points as well, 25 of them for Indiana, in a game that the Knicks really controlled things, it felt like, and the pace of it for the first couple of quarters. The Knicks had a chance to really get into this Pacers team if they could hit some big shots. They did not hit big shots, and they also turned the ball over. They were not good down the stretch on the defensive side, and that was the big thing for the Knicks in this series. Turnovers and defense just did not do enough, and the Pacers end up moving on to the NBA Finals. Overall, for the Knicks, you got to say, when you look at Tom Thibodeau, there's a lot of noise still coming out. Is he going to be the coach next year? Will he continue with this Knicks team? You got to say that Tom Thibodeau deserves to be with this Knicks team next season. Made it all the way to the conference finals. I know Knicks fans are disappointed. Their best chance in their mind to go to the NBA Finals and maybe win it. I don't think in the end you fire Tom Thibodeau because they didn't make it to the NBA Finals. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, first time in 25 years for a Knicks team that year after year through the 2000s was just really a disaster, and into the 2010s, not a great franchise and maybe even a laughingstock to some people. And then all of a sudden, Tom Thibodeau comes in before the COVID season, and it really ended up helping the Knicks out. They are a dominant force in the Eastern Conference, and year after year, they could challenge against those teams like Boston, Indiana, Cleveland, whoever you throw at them. There's going to be more teams, obviously, but with the Knicks core that they have right now, plus the fact that Tom Thibodeau really preaches a lot for the intensity and the defense of this Knicks team. I know the defense in the playoffs was not great, But there were certain moments where, of course, Mikal Bridges, you had other guys in Mitchell Robinson really stepping up. The two guys that weren't good on the defensive side were Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. Tom Thibodeau should not be the answer for that. I think that's really fair enough for Tibbs, and he should be back for another season with the New York Knicks. But they now go into an offseason where there's a lot of questions. Of course, I mentioned Tom Thibodeau being one of them, but they have some guys on their roster that probably not going to return for another season. There's a big question mark surrounding Josh Hart's future. Would I get rid of Josh Hart? Probably not. I think that guy is a real engine to this Knicks team, and he's the real centerpiece of this Knicks team and their intensity and what they're trying to prove in the Eastern Conference. He's at the heart of that, no pun intended, but he really brings this team to another level on the defensive side with his intensity and really the intensity and the effort to go get boards as well as be tough on defense and really force things into the paint and just be tough and going downhill. I think that's the difference between Hart and some of the other players that this Knicks team has. It's just not the same, and it wouldn't be the same without Josh Hart on this roster. What the Knicks do have to add is depth. That's the obvious thing. Their bench was probably the weakest of any team in the Eastern Conference playoffs this year. That's really not an exaggerated statement. They need to be better off the bench. They have to get shooters off the bench. They have to get good defenders off the bench, because if you have the two guys, like I mentioned, in Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns that don't put in the enough effort on the defensive side, when they come out of the game, you have to be better on defense, and that is really the big thing for the Knicks. Brunson's not going to be out for long. Towns is not going to be out for long in a game. When they are out, though, they need to be better defensively. They cannot have certain runs for the opponents that really end the game for them while their star players are on the bench. They cannot have that next season. So they have to add good defense off the bench. They also have to add some shooters off the bench to really help them out on both sides of the floor. But heading into free agency, there's really not too much to look at right now, and not many names that jump off the page for this Knicks team. The main ones are trade options, and I don't think those trade options are really fair enough for the Knicks right now. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kevin Durant, two of the names that are really popping off the screen when you look at those trade options that the Knicks could have this offseason. I don't think either one really fits what the Knicks are trying to bring to their roster. If they go out and get Giannis Antetokounmpo, you bet they're probably going to have to give up a guy like Karl Anthony Towns. That doesn't make sense. They just went to go get him. Some Knicks fans would love that, but I think even so, Karl Anthony Towns and the Knicks probably have to give up more. The Knicks do not have draft picks. They gave them up in maybe that Towns trade. They also gave up a ton in that Mikal Bridges trade. So that's a real standout point right now for the New York Knicks. Giannis Antetokounmpo, if you're going to get him, it's going to be a haul. You don't have enough pieces to really intrigue the Milwaukee Bucks compared to some of those other teams that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. Houston Rockets, San Antonio Spurs, they have more to offer to Milwaukee in the long term than the Knicks do right now. And obviously the other big time free agent option or trade option, is Kevin Durant. And that really doesn't fit, because then you are making your lineup so small. You don't have room really for a guy like Mitchell Robinson, who would come in and he's going to give you a hefty amount of minutes, I feel like, next year if he can stay healthy. On the defensive side, you're going to give Cat maybe a lot of the four time, but that's really going to leave the opening for Mitchell Robinson at the 5 in certain scenarios. Like I said, this all depends on health for him, but if you go out and get a guy like Kevin Durant, that really screws things up, and I feel like it also affects OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges. That's not going to help this Knicks team. I think it would hurt this Knicks team way more if they went out to get a guy like Kevin Durant, even though, yes, obviously the scoring would bring this team to another level. But that's really where the Knicks are right now. They end up losing in the Eastern Conference Finals. I know Knicks fans are very disappointed right now, but in the end, looking back at this season, I do think Knicks fans will say this one was a positive, getting over that threshold and back to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since the year 2000. So the Knicks lose in Game 6, 125 to 108. They lose the series 4-2, and Indiana heads to the NBA Finals. Let's switch things to baseball as both New York teams were in action this weekend, and let's start things off with the New York Mets, who are coming off a series sweep of the Colorado Rockies, who are just absolutely horrendous right now in the National League West and one of the worst records in baseball history. They are 9-50 now, and really could break the record easily in as the worst team in baseball history. That's just where they're at right now, and the Mets took advantage of it on their home field in front of the home crowd. 4-2, they win it on Friday. 8-2, they win it on Saturday, and then a 5-3 win to complete the sweep. Peterson, then Senga, then Holmes, all three of the Mets starting pitchers get the win, and they really took advantage of some bad starting pitching for the Colorado Rockies. Freeland was okay on Friday. It didn't give up too much, but then it really just came down to the stretch, and he ended up getting credited with the loss anyway. Senzatella was woeful in the first couple of innings of this game and really got tagged in the first inning, and Brett Beatty was a big part of that. Senzatella, a horrible first inning pitcher this year, and really proved that at Citi Field on Saturday. And then Palmquist, trying to really give the Rockies some hope. He falls to 0-4, and the Mets get a 5-3 win on Sunday. And obviously the big story from Sunday was that the three stars, Lindor, Alonso, Juan Soto, all homered in the same game for the first time this season. That's a positive sign for the New York Mets. I can't take too much into the real hype about this because it is the Colorado Rockies. You're going to get some really bad pitching. You're going to get some meatballs right down the middle from this pitching staff, and the Mets took advantage of it. Credit to the Mets, credit to Juan Soto, who had a couple homers in this series. However, now the real test comes, and let's preview this next series. They go out to LA, a 4-game set, taking on the reigning champion Los Angeles Dodgers, and it all starts tonight. 10-10 start. Paul Blackburn's on the mound taking on Dustin May, and like I said, a 10-10 start out west, a West Coast trip for the Mets this week when they take on the Dodgers, and then 3 games in Colorado at Coors Field. But looking at this Dodgers series, you don't take too much into account during the regular season. However, it really is a sneak preview of what could be a nice matchup in the month of October. There's a lot of great teams right now in the National League. It is loaded throughout, but if these two teams make it to the end, let's see what this series has in store. Could it be a Juan Soto story? Could it be a Pete Alonso story? Or are we going back to Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman? Betts probably not going to play in this series, still on and off whether he will end up playing in one of these games or a couple of these games, but it does seem that he's still out right now, and a 10-10 start tonight. Blackburn and May, the Mets have to come out strong, and I'll talk about this more on Thursday's episode and recap a lot of this series. But Blackburn coming back for his first start of the season, and I don't think you're too positive as a Met fan. He's kind of the same as a guy like Tyler McGill, who you saw really start off strong, and then it kind of has gone downhill just a bit from then, although McGill has been good in his last couple of starts. I think that kind of scenario, you're hoping that this 6-man rotation really comes to fruition. You give a guy like Kodai Senga, who's had some health problems, especially in the last year or so, you give him an extra day of rest before he pitches. Even other guys, Clay Holmes, still getting used to being a starting pitcher, and those innings jump. I think that's a big thing to have a 6-man rotation. So obviously Blackburn's going to come in tonight, and we'll see what happens. But make sure you tune in all series long. I don't think too much of, like I said, Juan Soto and the Rockies series. Now, if he does homer a couple times against the Dodgers, he gets going at Dodger Stadium, then you're really thinking, all right, maybe he's settled in just a little bit for this Mets team and could keep that going as the months go on in this MLB season. But a long season to go, and we'll see what happens. Make sure you tune in tonight, 10-10 start, as the Mets take on the Dodgers in an NLCS rematch from a season ago. Let's shift things to the other side of New York as the New York Yankees end up getting a game against the Dodgers this weekend. They win on Sunday after a couple of brutal losses on Friday and Saturday. Start off with Friday, where the Yankees had a nice, comfortable lead early in that game, and they really took advantage of the Dodgers pitching. Tony Gonsolin did not have a great start, and all of a sudden you're sitting there in the third inning with the Yankees up 5-2. However, you really just saw the first bad start and the first blip for Max Fried, the Yankees ace, who's been tremendous so far this year. And it just was a rough outing for him. Got tagged a bunch really in the sixth inning and ends up getting charged with 6 earned runs. The Dodgers really took advantage of him, and the Dodgers, give them credit. They're a great lineup. They got a lot of star power, and they made Max Fried really work. The lefty, of course, against some of these real strong hitters, it's going to be a bit of a problem for Max Fried. He only had 3 strikeouts in this one, did not have his best stuff, and gave up 8 hits as well in just 5 innings of work. And obviously the Yankee bullpen comes in, tries to really hold on to things, but the lineup really didn't help them out down the stretch, and they didn't score after Goldschmidt's solo home run in the third inning. So that ended Friday's game 8-5, and then just a horrible game on Saturday. And Will Warren had his he felt like it went back to the early starts of Will Warren this season. He's been very good recently, and you had to really expect him to continue that. But then he goes up against this Dodgers lineup and gets absolutely trucked. An inning and a third, he only goes 6 hits, 7 earned runs, 1 home run allowed, 4 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. He gets his 3rd loss of the year, and just a bad outing overall for Will Warren, who, like I said, you're expecting maybe some better starts, but this Dodgers lineup is really tough again, and they really made Will Warren work and caused a lot of trouble early in this one. It was 10-0 in just the second inning, and it finished off 18-2 at Dodger Stadium. So that's baseball, and you have to flush it, and the Yankees did that heading into Sunday. They end up getting a 7-3 win on Sunday Night Baseball with Ryan Yarbrough on the mound going up against Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And Yamamoto has been really strong this year, and the Yankees really made him work. 3 2/3 he pitches with 7 hits allowed, 4 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, 3 walks. The strikeouts is really what stands out to me, because Yamamoto has been a monster when it comes to Ks, and 2 of them in 3 2/3 innings is just remarkable stuff from a Yankees team that you expect to strike out plenty of times against a strikeout specialist like Yamamoto. He had 7 Ks in his last outing, then 9 before that, 6 the one before that, and just 2 against this Yankees team that, like I said, in the past has struck out a lot over the years, and they really made them work. And give credit to the Yankees, who end up getting a 7-3 win on Sunday Night Baseball. And a big contributor to that was one man in Ryan Yarbrough, who goes out once again and is absolutely dealing. He's 3-0 on the season. He goes 6 innings strong, 4 hits allowed, an earned run. The one blip he had was a second inning solo blast for Tommy Edman, but 5 strikeouts as well. And this guy, who really tormented the Yankees year after year after year when he was with the Tampa Bay Rays, the soft contact and just really dealing against the Yankees each and every time. It's good to see, as a Yankee fan, Yarbrough really stepping up for the Yankees in the absence of a lot of starting pitchers that the Yankees are missing, and the key guys, Garrett Cole, Luis Gil, 2 of them at the top of the list. And even they have more injuries I know Marcus Stroman's not a big-time contributor, and really one that Yankee fans are hoping to get rid of pretty soon in Stroman. But Yarbrough comes in, and he's really been tremendous so far. And like I said, now moves up to a 3-0 record as the Yankees' 5th starter. And that's really a positive sign for the New York Yankees, who go 6-3 on their West Coast trip, as they end up getting 2 of 3 against the Rockies. Then they sweep the Angels, and then they just lose 2 of 3 to the Dodgers. But you're still really positive about it. And like I said, you can't really take too much of this regular season series, 162 games. Yes, the Dodgers got 2 out of 3. It's out on the road. It's at Dodger Stadium. You're not always going to win a tough series like that. So you take the positives of it, and the 7-3 win heading home is a real positive one for the Yankees. And even though Yarbrough was a main star of that, I also want to talk about DJ LeMahieu, who had a monster game, 4 of 5 in this one, a couple of RBIs, and he was a huge contributor in this game. And that's a problem right now for the New York Yankees when they look at the batting of their second baseman and their third baseman. Of course, Jazz Chisholm is going to return probably this week, it looks like. And whether he'll play third or second, still in question. Looks like he's probably going to slot in at third base, and that is fine as long as you're getting contributions on offense from those two positions in second and third base. And those two guys are probably going to end up being, well, Jazz will most likely be in the middle of the lineup of the second baseman, whoever it is on that given day, whether it's LeMahieu or somebody else. They'll probably be just the 9-hitter in the lineup, and you're hoping that it really sets guys up at the top. Goldschmidt, Grisham, Judge, whoever's batting first that night. Ben Rice has been tremendous and really is solidifying his place for an everyday spot in this lineup, and that could be a big thing with Jason Dominguez as well. Bit of a thumb problem yesterday, so that DH spot could be filled, and we'll see what happens as the Yankees now advance to another series against the Cleveland Guardians, and a nice rematch from the postseason last year in the ALCS. They go from a World Series rematch to an ALCS rematch, and this one should be a great pitching matchup. It all starts tomorrow night, 7:05, as the Yankees and the Guardians, Carlos Rodon, taking on Tanner Bybee. And these two guys, real strong pitchers. Bybee not having his greatest stuff so far this season, 4-5 at 3.86 ERA, but you know he's a guy that can really turn it on. And when his stuff is rolling, he's really hard to touch, and the Yankees know that from the postseason a season ago. But Rodon has been tremendous recently. Really good stuff in a lot of his starts, and a lot of consecutive starts where he's looked really, really good. And now a win in 3 consecutive starts for Rodon, where he was 4-3, and now he's all of a sudden 7-3 after an April where you started off really shaky. You didn't know what you were going to get. He has been tremendous since then and has whipped off plenty of wins when he was 1-3 and going down to the San Francisco Giants in a big loss to them on April 13th, where Jung-Hoo Lee ended up getting a couple of home runs off him. Since then, Rodon's been pretty spotless and has gotten a decision and a win in all but 2 games since then. So he's been tremendous and looking to continue that. The lefty on the mound for the Yankees tomorrow night. Make sure you tune in all series long, and we'll recap on Thursday what's going on with the Yankees and the Guardians. But make sure you tune in tomorrow night, 7:05 start. It's Rodon and Bybee at the stadium. But that will do it for episode 80 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malaman. Thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Thursday.